What are some red flags for teachers that scream drop this class immediately? I had a sociology class where during the introductory lecture the professor went on a tangent about how, since she has a doctorate, if she was ever on a plane and someone asked, "Is there a doctor on board?" she would say she was a doctor. If you didn't call her drive she would ignore you. She stated that holding a doctorate in sociology should carry the same clout as being an MD. No disrespect to sociologists or anyone with a PhD, but those are not the same things. She went on other rants about how nobody has ever gotten a 4.0 in her class, and she was proud of it. It was the worst class I've ever taken. She was just an insecure nutcase with a PhD on a power trip. I barely passed. Oh, and the course text was of course her own book. That's ridiculous that she would answer someone asking for a doctor on a plane. The reason someone asks that is to find a person capable of keeping someone alive. Treating them being able to lecture them on human gentrification doesn't help. UK person here. TV documentary series following an airline and they once needed a doctor and the cabin crew specifically asked for a doctor of medicine. I'd assume as they were sick of asking for a doctor and random PhD holder would say I'm a doctor. This class will be using a textbook that I'm writing, and I'm during the semester translation. It's going to be amateur hour. In addition to trying to learn new stuff, you are paying the school for the privilege of proofreading your professor's book. See, I thought this until I took a course called Archaeology of the Ancient Near East with a retired adjunct professor. The book was $25 and he wrote it himself. Each page had pictures of the topic and it was written in simple language. He also however spent half of each page citing sources and making references. It was the most insightful and one of the best textbook reads I've had. It made a 3-hour night class much more exciting. I think it also helped that the professor has taught the class for years, is a curator of our university's small museum, and actually enjoys what he's teaching though. My favorite professors are the ones that are in love with what they teach. You can tell by the way they teach that they care deeply about the subject and want the students to care as well. Saw a course at my college called Digital Media and American Culture. Sounds neat, I thought. I'll go to a lecture during the shopping period. The professor is 10 minutes late, an 80-year-old man who gets up and literally asks a student in the front to tell him how many Facebook friends she has, and then how many real friends do you have. Was flabbergasted when he asked if anyone in the classroom had read 1984 and most of the class raised their hands. He was 100% convinced that millennials never pick up books anymore. Yeah, no. Christ. Was the class held on his lawn, and was he late because he had to yell at a cloud? Oh, but don't you know? All millennials do is be on their phones and play video games and waste their parents' money while blaming all their problems on everyone else. They should be all euthanized. I'm sorry, old man. I couldn't hear you over the sound of this delicious avocado toast. These books are required for the class. I wasn't able to get the revision into the bookstore in time, so the only place you can get them is from me directly or from my website. I will warn you, if you don't buy the books you won't get the login information to be able to take the final, which is 90% of your grade. Oh, and no, I can't accept financial aid for them, but it's only $250, so it's not a big deal. Never seen an entire class get up 5 minutes in and leave before. Lol, nice. This is the reaction so many of these professors here need. I thought it was illegal to force students to purchase something that can only be purchased from a school or teacher. Probably not, but the school would probably be interested in how he didn't get the revision in on time, and how you can only buy it from him, and how he won't take financial aid. This all means that the university isn't getting their share and everyone wants their share. I've never taught this before, so I'll be learning along with you. She ended up getting double teamed by 2 seniors and let go. Oh, my ex-history teacher said that for one of the 3 topics we did, and my computer science teacher doesn't even know the programming language we use. Just like to clarify, they do know more languages than anyone in my class does, but since they joined my school halfway through the course, they have to just go with whatever language the old teacher decided to teach us, which just happens to be one they don't know. For me it was the programming language one too. She was a new teacher, first job after graduating, and she said she didn't know any programming. It was high school, so all we did was play Counter-Strike, Warcraft 3, and Quake anyways. It got even worse when my teacher had to ask one of the French teachers for help with working the computer a few weeks ago. Gives a test on the first day that will be counted against you. Had one of my mathematics teachers do this. This happened to me on the first day of medical school. To be fair, we knew ahead of time, and it was intended to be something to force us to refresh our memory for all the things we had already learned for the MCAT and only counted for a very small amount of our grade. You guys have weird school standard. Here, each teacher has to give the exam dates for the whole semester in advance, part of the curriculum they give you. You sign the thing saying you understand the dates, and will make sure to inform all teachers if there is a conflict or whatever within 48 hours. So they can't give you exams on day 1, and there is no surprise or anything. You know exactly when each exam is on day 1, when each paper is due, how many papers you'll have, etc. Had a drawing professor that put a stack of pre-signed withdrawal forms on his desk. Told us to grab one when we were ready. Wow, I didn't realize the US Marines were teaching drawing classes now. No, they aren't allowed anymore. Kept eating the crayons. I don't normally lol when I write lol, but I lolled. Drawing at my college was very tough. If you aren't coming in with any kind of skill, you'd probably get like a C, only if you completed all of your assignments. The homework pile-up was insane. Drawings would take hours a piece and you'd have to complete multiple drawings each week. Our final project was a drawing that we had to use an entire pen for until it was out of ink, and if you tried wasting some of the ink on scratch paper, he could tell. This is drawing class, not withdrawing class. When they really put down good students for small mistakes. I had an algebra professor in college who once marked almost an entire test I took wrong because I abbreviated units of measurement such as centimeters, feet, etc. instead of spelling out centimeters, feet, etc. All of my answers were correct, but he gave me like a 33% on my test for that. I had to complain to the math department dean, and he had to change my grade. I had a science teacher in middle school who marked me down 1 point every time I wrote the letter A in a lab report because she didn't like my penmanship. Ended up with a negative grade, rounded up to a 0. Negative grade, how TF is that even possible? You used a comma instead of a semicolon. Time to euthanize. If they do icebreakers, not just on the first day, but the second day as well, it means they have no idea what they are doing. Really, if they do icebreakers period. Unless it's a communication class, it can be a good way to gauge where people are at in terms of verbal communication off the cuff. Or a foreign language class. These people will be doing oral assignments and group assignments with you, and if you're both majoring or minoring in that language, then you'll probably be seeing each other for a few years to come. Then go over the syllabus the third day and keep stressing that the syllabus could change at any time, and that you should check Blackboard for updates. Usually means they just threw together a syllabus to appease their department head, and knows they won't be able to actually follow it. Reviews on Rate My Professor. There are a few times that the student was just mad that they got a low grade, but more often than not, they are spot on. I swore by Rate My Prof when I was in uni. By my third year I knew what type of class format I preferred. As long as you came to class and took good notes, you could just study those and didn't really need to do all the readings. No essays longer than 10 pages, non-multiple choice exams. So I would register for classes with profs whose teaching style I preferred. My GPA went up drastically once I started picking classes this way. I wish I could still do that, but at this point my classes are all taught by one person or the others option doesn't work with my schedule. The opposite, purchasing the book for this class, will not be necessary. Save your money. I have a PDF copy if anyone needs it, but we will follow along together, and I have printouts of all the questions. When a teacher does that, I'm like, okay, they obviously care about making this a good experience and not wasting my time or money. Or if they tell you the best way to get a textbook, we've got 5 copies in the library. Don't buy the book, you get it free with my math lab. Most of the stories we will read are public domain. The translations might differ. When you quote other sources, make sure you include the translator in the source. I'm sorry, that is incorrect. Your answer my math lab. Correct answer my math lab. You should drop all of your other classes because this course will require a lot of time and effort. I had a 300 level course where the professor told us we really wouldn't have time for other courses since this was going to be harder and more time consuming than the others. They were paired with other courses mandatory for my major that semester. How do you expect me to only focus on your course when the department requires me to take courses directly related to this class? Had a 100 level course that took up more time than my 400 level course with labs combined. 70% dropped the course and a little above half that stayed. Got an F or D. It is a C required for the major and minor. Guess who is no longer doing a minor? The required textbook is a saran wrapped package of loose leaf papers that cost $100, authored by the professor. $100 is a steal for a textbook in my science math heavy major and helping line the pocket of someone in the department I know. I may actually be completely on board for this. It's been so beautiful the past 2 years. I have a processing course every semester of year 2 and 3. Just finished the intro to semester 2 of that class, different prof every time. They coordinated to use the same textbook though, so I bought it first semester second year and can still use it. Loose leaf means easy photocopying too. Sounds like a dream. Think that their students should only focus on this particular class for the upcoming semester, as if they should spend all their time on it. Had a prof ask, show of hands, how many of you are taking other classes? And when people raised their hands said, that was a mistake. Then said, how many of you have jobs? That was a mistake. I think enrolling in that class was a mistake. Thinking this class was a mistake, that was a mistake. I guess being poor is also a mistake. Yeah, if you didn't want any of that, maybe you should been born rich. Yes. Have you tried not being poor? I used to be poor, couldn't even afford bootstraps to pull myself up with.